Hello, my creative friends, and welcome to another episode of The Daily Prompt. Happy Saturday if you're watching this in real time. I got a really good episode for you here today. We're going to start looking at some of the business strategy. I know that a lot of writers often have a little bit of hesitation, fear. You're worried that the time and maybe the money that you put into carving out space to actually write and develop these skills is something you really often feel like there's no actual return on this, or that there may be no actual return. So I really firmly believe that we are literally right in the middle of the most extraordinary, exciting moment in this space, in this creative space. But it requires a little bit of a shift in your sort of mental outlook. And so what I wanted to do today, before, I know that everybody's kind of interested in getting into some technique and story building, and let's talk about characters and dialogue and all that stuff. And I promise that we will spend next week doing entirely that. That's my promise to you now. But before we do this Saturday knowledge bomb I'm going to drop on you here, I really want to sort of get you into the business mindset isn't really the right way to look at it. Just the strategic mindset of what we're trying to achieve. Now, before I talk about this business stuff, it's important to always understand if your goal is to write big Hollywood blockbuster type films, this, I believe, is the strategy to get to that. So what I'm about to lay out is a strategy that's probably going to take you in a little bit of a different direction, but know that my thesis, what I'm presenting to you is this idea that by doing this, that's how you're going to develop your skills, you're going to develop your talents, and then be able to actually open those doors at that higher level that you're aiming for. The skills to create that stuff at that level don't just sort of fall out of the sky. We're not born with it. I like to say that we don't pop out of the womb ready to write screenplays. We have to learn this stuff. We have to develop these skills. And so writing at that level requires having a whole lot of skill along the way. And what's most exciting about this era right now is that we have pretty much an unlimited, infinite opportunity to develop our skills. So I've talked previously on this channel about this new screenwriter strategy where the idea is to make lower budget material that is going to be story driven, that's going to be a showpiece, that's going to generate buzz and generate excitement and get people interested in, okay, now this is interesting. What else do you have? And that's when you lay on them your big budget thing. That's how those doors open. That's how you get your agent and your manager in today's era. So what I'm excited about talking about today is this idea of how to make money making movies. I'm a big fan of this sort of vlogging thing that's been taking over the YouTube environment. I had resisted all that stuff for a very long period of time. And then eventually I started following this YouTuber by the name of Casey Neistat, who makes these daily vlog videos. I think it's pretty much just himself doing it. And he shoots himself with lots of different cameras and he pieces together a story. And he's really creating a story-driven vlog. And I'm thinking, okay, well, how does this, I'm always watching that kind of thing thinking, how does this impact Hollywood? How does this impact the standard, the thing that I always knew and loved, which is making movies for the theater, right? How do we, at the end of the day, I want to make movies just like you probably, maybe. I want to make movies that people are going to go see in movie theaters, right? But everything's changing, right? The internet has made this explosion of opportunity available to everyone. People like Casey are taking these tools and these techniques, and they're creating a different kind of entertainment. Now, the opportunity, I think, is that that's changing the way the audience consumes. There was a time when you would never even conceive of watching a movie or any sort of fictionalized entertainment on your phone, and yet that's probably the way half of the people are going to watch the majority of films this coming year. Is they're going to watch them as time permits, in between meetings or whatever it is, right? So we have to be cognizant of how the industry is changing, how the world is changing, and what opportunities that opens up for us. I'm a firm believer that there will always be an opportunity, that there will always be an interest in long-form entertainment, in movies, in multi-episode television shows, in something that keeps and holds an audience's interest for an hour to 2 hours or more. Binge watch 6-8 hours of a show, right? Why do people do that? We do that for escapism. We do that for entertainment. We do that because we like to immerse in the story world. Story is essential to the way the human brain processes our experiences and our information. So I don't think that's going away anytime soon. But the viewing habits and the entertainment language that we're immersing in today is changing because of the nature of social media, because of the nature of YouTube channels, because of the nature of these kinds of people. Now, one of the things that I only discovered it about around about Thanksgiving, so 2-3 months ago, is a guy named Gary Vaynerchuk. Now, Gary Vaynerchuk is basically an entrepreneur and a personal branding guy, and he's just talking about attention is the key. So in order to sell anything, you need to get somebody's attention first. That's his basic idea. And so he's created this daily vlog, and it's kind of what I wanted this show to ultimately become, is that daily vlog where you're watching me go through the journey of creating this film, of then creating the next film, of building this film studio, right? So when I keep asking for a videographer out there, somebody that can help me with this, I'm talking about a D-Rock type person, which is his videographer that makes that show, that ultimately handles that social media stuff, that in my situation would ultimately then become the person that's shooting the films and making the films with us. So that's why I keep saying that that's this sort of opportunity. Now, the larger picture here, the business, the sort of strategic picture here, one of the things that if you watch enough of Gary Vee's content that you start to realize is that as we move forward in this environment, there are going to be more and more and more people who are going to need to get attention, who are going to need to get audience interest to sell their products, to build their brand, to sell their services, whatever it might be, right? So how do we do that in a social media environment? Nobody wants to be advertised. Nobody wants to be said, buy now, buy now, buy now, right? Sale, 50% off. If you happen to be in the market for a product, of course, you're going to look for a sale 50% off, but you don't want to be barraged and interrupted with it. So the way that people are going to be marketed to in the future is through story, is through story vlogs, is through story, specific story content, often in short form. But what I'm starting to realize is that one of the possibly biggest opportunities for filmmakers is not here yet, but it's coming. As that starts to happen, as more people start to do that, what's going to be what businesses are going to want to do next is to start creating feature-length products, is to start creating longer form story, because they're going to see the benefit in that to their organization. Whether it's if you can think of it as an extended commercial for their product, or just an environment in which their product is featured. At the end of the day, it's going to be about storytelling skills. It's going to be about all these things that we do as screenwriters. It's going to be about capturing their interest, hooking them, plot twists, subplots, side plots. All of these things are going to be what will make that kind of material more engaging for an audience and more likely for a consumer to want to watch that, because they're watching the entertainment. They're not watching the ad. The company just benefits because they're sort of there in the background. The product gets used from time to time, whatever it might be, right? But if you go back and you think about the nature of what I've been talking about, of making indie features starting at low and no budget, the tools exist today to make a film with very little money, right? The challenge is always going to be the quality of the story. The challenge is always going to be what's the journey that we're being taken on. It's going to be that audience experience, right? That's going to be the primary focus and what's going to differentiate the different projects. So, like I said, I can share all my information with you. You can go out and use it and make films. At the end of the day, literally, we can all make films. The ones that are going to get noticed, the ones that are going to create buzz, are going to be the better quality ones. And that's how you show your skills as a writer, as a storyteller, is by creating that stuff that gets the buzz, that gets the interest. So what we really have is a situation where you can make movies, we can create movies for either clients specifically, or we can create movies that appeal to a specific market. So let's take this another direction. Before you start thinking, and probably I already lost a bunch of people who thought, he's talking about writing movies for a corporate. I don't want to sell out. Not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is creating story and understanding where the money comes from and understanding how to recoup. As a producer, as somebody looking for material to produce, or who did for a long period of time, the question was always, how are we going to return the money to the investor? Because nobody's going to invest in a project unless they can see some sort of financial return. Well, a company may not need to see an actual financial return. They may simply want the publicity. They may simply want the eyeballs. They may simply want to draw in the audience, right? Or capture the audience who's not paying attention to whatever it is they do. So they may want to invest in that project for that reason. Companies these days, the smarter ones, are not making commercials as an extended movie as a commercial. They're creating entertainment. They're creating entertainment that they're kind of even hands off on. Sometimes their product doesn't even feature in it. It's just presented by, or it's just they're the producer of the project. And in that way, there's that name recognition. There's that branding, which helps them with their brand. So that's one aspect of what I'm talking about. Another aspect of what I'm talking about is making movies specifically for a market. Now, here's the key. If you're going to make a super low budget, no budget film, if you make a film that is specifically targeted to a certain kind of an audience, then you have a built-in potential audience for your project. If you can make it good enough quality at low enough cost, then you can ultimately attract that audience. So for example, the kinds of films that we're going to make, that I'm going to start out by making, are going to be independent science fiction films, low budget sci-fi films. Now there's a reason for that. I'm going to go into a bigger video about it soon. I promise next week we're going to do story development stuff. So we'll do it maybe the week after. Anyway, but the idea is, and the reason horror film is such a popular genre is because there's a ready-made audience there. There is an existing audience of people who enjoy and like sci-fi films. If we come up with a good concept, a good basic premise or situation, or something intriguing that's going to engage that sci-fi mind, well, then they're more likely to want to come watch our film. If we make it for a low enough cost and the quality is good enough, remember, we're not going to attract them if it's schlocky, bad quality, unless that's the specific audience that you're reaching for, and that is actually an audience out there. But ultimately, if the audience is there and you can make this for a low enough cost, then you can recoup that money. That's how to make money making movies, is you make movies for a low enough cost that has a built-in audience for it that will actually want to consume the product. Now, if we make it for a zero budget or very, very low budget, as we're going to do with this first one that we're making, the whole point is by making it for low enough money, we don't actually need much of a success to recoup. You see what I'm saying? Now, so if ultimately that is the end goal, you can do that in whatever genre you have. So if you are a horror film fan, and this again is why horror film is such a big market. There's always a market for, if you do a Google search for sci-fi movies and you look at how many sort of searches come up, it's like 80,000 or something like that. If you do the same search for horror films, it's like 350,000. So it's like, there are substantially more people looking for horror films. So why don't we make horror films? That's not what I want to make. So that's, if you want to make that, hey, the opportunity is there for you. Make it low enough, good enough quality, something they haven't seen before, something unique, something original, which again is why I think sci-fi is stronger for us. But whatever you want to do. Now, let's think of the wider business strategy here. Let's say a vlogger or a company in the beauty space, They make beauty videos on YouTube, and they have this big audience. There's an enormous audience, millions of people who consume this content online. What if you made a movie that would appeal to that target? What if you made a movie that would actually engage with those people? So often writers are busy thinking about their idea, they're busy thinking about what they'd like to have in the big studio film and all that they miss the opportunity that's right in front of their nose, which is we today, through social media marketing, through social media search and research, we can figure out where there are audiences. And then we can create stories for those audiences. Or we can figure out how the stories that we want to create might tap into one of those audiences. And therefore, we're going to be able to see kind of the size of the potential audience, therefore how much or little I would need to make my film for in order to be able to sell that project to that audience. Now, I'm talking sort of a producer mindset. I'm talking sort of this is the way the money person, the producer, would have to think about it, because the producer always has to think about, where am I going to get the money from? How am I going to sell it? Does this make sense? Can the money go far enough to actually realize this idea? All that kind of stuff. Now, as a screenwriter or storyteller, that's not necessarily your primary focus, and doesn't necessarily need to be. And that's not really what I'm talking about here. That's not the point of this video. The point of this video is to help you see that there is enormous opportunity here, that we're actually entering into an era where there is going to be more and more and more opportunity, especially at the lower budget levels, or at the indie film levels, what has historically always been indie film levels, because of the nature of attention, because of the nature of attracting eyeballs to people's brands, or to companies' products, or to getting attention in an overcrowded world. Long-form content is going to always be something that we go back to for escapism, for entertainment, for that immersive experience that only a long-form story can give us. Now, we can also apply all of our story tools, all of our story development skills to the shorter content, to the little webisodes, the little episodics, to the little pieces of content that more and more and more and more businesses and individuals and influencers and this entire ecosystem need and want and are going to have to develop. If you, for example, watching this now were, for example, an influencer, and you're thinking about your content strategy going forward, guess what? Creating fictionalized entertainment is absolutely vital. It's essential. It's what's going to differentiate you. So it's important to learn and understand the story development skills, the story building skills, the screenwriting skills. So for this reason, I am firmly of the belief that what we have today is an unprecedented opportunity for creative people, for storytellers, for screenwriters. The challenge is, all you're thinking about is the old model. All you're thinking about is writing and getting an agent and selling to Hollywood and knocking on the door of the film studio. And guess what? All of that is still there. All of that will be there. You need to develop the skills to be able to do that. But how are you going to develop those skills? If you've been watching this series from the beginning, you know that I've walked you through the entire process, but you also know that beyond just the process itself, you need to understand the production element. You need to understand how that is woven into the creative process. And that's what this is all about. And that's what I'm here to hopefully help you see and expand your imagination and make you realize just how extraordinary the opportunity actually is. I've had a bunch of people reach out to me on direct message, on email. I had one guy who I've enjoyed having a conversation with. He says, He says, I don't know, my family thinks it's kind of risky, this whole thing. And I hear that all the time. I've heard that for 20 years. The idea that it's risky to pursue storytelling, screenwriting, creativity, that it's risky to invest your time, your money into this kind of a thing, when the opportunity, the upside potential on the other end of it is so unappreciated at this point, and it's just starting to come into view. This guy, Gary Vee, that I've been talking about, he's been talking about this stuff for 8 or 9 years. I only discovered him 2 months ago. As soon as I discovered him, I went, this is the game changer right here. This is why I need to build this independent film studio. This is why I need to start doing this daily vlog. This is why I need to just start making that first indie feature. Now, I've already made a feature in the past. I've already worked on lots and lots of stuff over the years. So I'm coming at this with a little bit of a, I guess, a little bit of a head start, a little bit of a, I'm bringing a lot of knowledge and expertise to this. So this isn't just something I had a great idea and started running into it. I felt like I'm poised. I built this whole system and it's been sitting there. And now I realize, oh, this is prepping us for this explosion of opportunity ahead of us. Writers can't see it yet. I get the view numbers are low on this channel. I get that if you've been watching all along, you're thinking, this is great. He's fun. He's inspiring to watch. I'm doing more writing than I've ever done before. Great. You still don't quite see the extraordinary opportunity that is right there in front of us. We can grab it right now if we have the skills. Or I continue to build this machine and we can just, all of us can take advantage of it. So if you're worried at all about the idea of investing time or money into learning the skill of story development, in learning the process of creativity, of creating production-ready page-turner screenplays, not just taking your ideas and putting them on the page, but actually turning them into something that somebody like me could actually use. If you're worried about the time or the money invested in that, understand, I personally believe that this is where all the opportunity is ahead. I believe personally that as everything gets automated and jobs start going away, it's all going to go into the creative realms, because that's what human beings do. Because, as I've said 100 times, we all have a unique window on our world. We all have unique stories to tell. That's where it's all going, as I see it. And it's extraordinary financial opportunity for us, and it really makes the whole thing possible. There has never been a better time to get into all this stuff. So let's turn it back into a daily prompt, because I can get carried away with this all day long. Turning this back into a daily prompt, here's what I want you to do. I want you, when this video is over, to stop, to think about it. If you really want to go do some searching on some of the names that I've talked about here, or start searching about the kinds of things I've been talking about, create your own search. I'm not going to give you search terms. Create your own search, because that's going to lead you down your unique road. But ultimately, what I want you to do is stop and think about that stuff. Really process it. Filter it through your own unique perspective and imagination. Really focus it. Think about the idea or the story of the project that you've either been working on through this past month, or that you've just now, whatever I talked about today, sparked an idea for you, or a new thing. You're thinking, geez, I have 3 different hobbies that I'm super passionate about. I wonder if there's a big enough audience there for me to make a film that would appeal to that audience. Start thinking like that. Don't watch the next video. Stop, ponder, process, filter, and really focus on that aspect of this whole thing. There is opportunity in whatever you're passionate about. There is opportunity in whatever story you've already started focusing on or writing, or has been languishing in your bookshelf's second shelf. I don't know. At the end of the day, I assure you that what is coming is full of opportunity for us. All we have to do is learn to see it. This is what I mean about seeing the invisible opportunities. This is what I mean about getting in there before those tiny little windows close. Okay? So take the time, actually follow through. I know it's a Saturday, but hopefully because it's a Saturday, there's not the work pressure and you can actually just sink right into it and take action. Thank you so much for watching. Hopefully you'll join me for the personal vlog thing tomorrow. Certain things have been clicking this week, but if not, I will see you on Monday. Thank you so much for watching. Take action now. See you next time.